Welcome to the Happy Mindset, episode number 98. Today's episode is called The Inspiration Engineer. Today I'm joined by Cauvee. Cauvee is a speaker, a Tedx speaker, and he's a musician as well, a strategist. He helps people to find their purpose in life, to believe in themselves, and yeah, it was just interesting talking to this guy. He's got a good presence about him. And on today's episode, we explore how to go about making your multiple different interests work for you. So we ask him some questions around that, how he's made it work for himself, how he came up with the title, The Inspiration Engineer. So yeah, I hope you can get some value from this episode. Thanks again for listening and enjoy today's episode. Okay, so thanks for joining us today, Cauvee.
Hey, I really appreciate being here, Dennis. I'm really excited to give a lot of value and really help as many people as possible. So thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. So my first question is, who are you and what are you doing in the world today?
Who am I? That is a loaded, fantastic question. As far as I guess what I do in the world is I am here. My purpose is I help people step into fulfillment, into their purpose. And I use strategy, music, what we call edutainment. So strategy, music, and coaching to do that. So I'm a person that I think I love people. So I always want to be around people and be around nurturing environments. I always want to give value. I play basketball, something there for all of our basketball fans out there. And I'm big into health and fitness and personal development. So that's kind of a quick rundown on who I am.
How did you get into edutainment? Could you explain what that is and how did you get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from the music world. Like very early on, my dad would used to give me these hero speeches, is what I call it. And he's like, son, you can do whatever you want to do, be what you want to be. Like anything you set your mind to, right? I'm 5 years old hearing these messages, writing poetry. Fast forward around sixth grade, I got my first mentor. And my first mentor was a person that we hear about who writes a famous song. The celebrity steals their song, and then we never hear about the originator of the work. So around sixth grade, I fell in love with music, just hitting, I'm in the studio hitting buttons, not knowing what I'm doing. And I was like, this is what I love. This is what I'm going to do with my life. And so I go to my dad. We're outside playing basketball, matter of fact, to speak on that. And I was like, Dad, I figured out like what I'm going to do. Like I'm excited, I'm pumped. And he's like, what is it, son? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? And I was like, I'm going to be a musician. And he's like, you can't do that. And I was like, what do you mean I can't do that? Like, that's not what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. So it sparked, I say my dad gave me the gift of ferocity because he became public enemy number one. So fast forward from sixth grade to my senior year in high school, we sold out a concert of 1,209 people. So from now, 2002 all the way up to 2011, I was working on the entertainment side, like doing that part of the business while working for some very large companies, Google, Dish Network, University of Phoenix, like all these large companies, learning sales mastery, right? Learning psychology of human thinking. I got my master's degree in psychology at that time, learning really how humans work, all these different companies sitting with all the top performers, and that's it. So around that time, 2010, at University of Phoenix, I took all that sales experience and I helped a lady named Melissa Briscoe get her associate's degree. I was her enrollment counselor. So it was a sales role and it was a mentoring role. And next to that concert that sold out and did fantastic, by the way, I want to insert something there. My follow-up concert flopped. So the first concert, we sold 1,209 tickets out of 1,200 tickets. The second concert, we sold 333 tickets out of 3,300 tickets. So it was a massive failure. So next to that first success, Melissa Briscoe getting her associate's degree was the next major win that I had. And I was like, I love this whole coaching thing. So now fast forward again from 2011 to 2014. 2014, I started reading books and getting into personal development. And Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins was one of the first books that I read on personal development. And what I noticed was, as I started studying how the Facebooks of the world get built, how these technology companies get built, I said, that's the exact same parallel process that you use to build a musician or any kind of personal brand for that matter. So I was like, if it's parallel, why does it not work, the same? And I want to talk about like the economics, the infrastructure, the support, the mentorship. Music world functions almost like old school slavery, and that's a whole nother conversation. We'll just leave the viewers with that for now, right? But fast forward now. So I had this thought around that time because now I'm seeing both of these worlds, And the thought I had that blew my mind, it said, this was when Michael Jackson was alive. This is before Masterclass, before Eric Thomas and Peter Vu put out their mixtapes. So I had the thought, I said, man, what if Michael Jackson took all his content, gave everybody a cease and desist letter, put all that content on his app. And I was doing a lot of market research around the time the average course was about $1,200 for an entrepreneur course. And I was like, what if he sold courses on the Michael Jackson app? Like, how much would that be worth? And when I thought about that, my mind exploded. And I was like, dude, that's $1 trillion business, easy, because people would pay more to get that from Michael Jackson, right? So as soon as I had that revelation, I was like, I'm going to build that. And that's what I started building. And then Masterclass came out thereafter. Eric Thomas and Peter Vu took their speeches and put it on hip hop beats. And they call that a mixtape, which is very hip hop verbiage. And I don't even know if you're aware, Elon Musk released a song last week. So so edutainment is definitely the way of the future.
Inspiration engineer, that's what you call yourself. How did that come about? How did you come up with the name, and what does it mean?
Yeah. Inspiration engineer, I found myself with a lot of different skills. So Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, they always say, the more skills you have, the more valuable you are to the marketplace. Well, that's true. Also, what is true, the more skills you have, the more confusion that the marketplace has around what you do. So it's not like languages. If I speak English, French, Italian, Mandarin, and Spanish, nobody gets confused and says, well, Dennis, what language do you speak? When you have a lot of different skills that don't all fall under the same umbrella, like a full stack developer, and then you're a musician and you've got all these different skills, people are confused. They're like, which one are you? Like, what are you? And so what I was finding was every time I would go to Chamber of Commerce, I was, a marketer or a sales guy. Every time I was around musicians, I was an audio engineer, a poet, a writer, a singer, and a rapper. When I was around salespeople, I was a sales guy. So I felt inauthentic. And I was like, I need a title. I'm going to create my own title that this is me. And I created about 10 different titles. And then I had my community vote on those titles as I was sharing my problem. And my community voted on Inspiration Engineer out of 10 titles. And I was born.
In that time, did you ever find yourself questioning, who am I? If I'm this and this and this, I'm all these things, but who am I? Did that come up to your awareness?
No, not really. Because the world has these rules. The world has all these barriers to entry of you've got to be this one thing. We attach our identity to what we do, which is unfortunate, but it doesn't have to be. And I think the world needs to understand. I use a lot of basketball analogies. You have some people that are specialists. Dennis Rodman, all he does is get rebounds. He's not trying to score. He's not trying to do nothing but get rebounds. That's his role. Then you have a Draymond Green who plays for the Golden State Warriors. He does everything well. He's not a specialist in any shape of the matter. The only thing somebody might say is, well, he's the motivating guy on the team. But he does everything. He does everything well. So what I found is, and I have high-level mentors that are, aligned with kind of my background. And then I have mentors that are specialists. So you don't have to be one or the other. But what I found from my experience was I had a lot of skills where I was really good at a lot of different things. And so I didn't fall under this one umbrella, and I got tired of the world trying to put me in a box. And I was like, I'm not in that box, and I'm not going to answer the question to make you feel comfortable. Like, this is what I do. And so then, usually people would then say, well, okay, well, if you do all that stuff, you're a producer. You're a multi-level producer. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm an inspiration engineer. So it was one of those things where I didn't question it. It was also one of those things where I've seen it done by other brands. And so I was very comfortable with it, and the world soon, will be no arrogance, no ego. It's all about branding and recognition.
Yeah. How long did it take you to go through that confusion of all these different things? How long did it take you to get clear on all of these things?
Well, I still wouldn't say we're clear. We're still figuring out new ways of doing things, of communicating, making a really clear message. When people think about their own personal brand, when people look at Oprah, or they look at a Tony Robbins, or they look at somebody that offers all these different things, majority of people don't think that that's possible for them. I saw that very early as very possible for me. Tony Robbins does a lot of different things. He manages a lot of companies. You could look at Damon, what's Damon from Fubu Shark Tank? I can't think of Shark Tank. Mark Cuban, all those sharks manage a lot of different businesses. So they got to do a lot of different things, have a lot of different resources. I saw that very early on for me. So to answer your question, Cauvee was filed in 2015, August, but it has modified and evolved over time, and it continues to evolve every day, for that matter, by 1%.
So was that when because my question, what I wanted to ask you actually was, when did the marketplace start making sense of you between
The
all the...
marketplace still hasn't. They still haven't.
Hmm.
People still get confused because we have a large product suite, and because we've done a lot and we have a lot of reviews in different categories, and a lot of our domains still are not public. There's certain companies, certain parts of the empire that are still in stealth. That is when, and one thing I want to give our viewers, our listeners right now, you can have a lot of skills and do a lot of things. Do not market all of them at once. Do not tackle all of them at once. Tackle one, automate, funnelize, systemize that one, get that one running, and then go to your next one. That was what I did, incorrectly. But we had all these reviews, and by the time we had all these reviews, they're public, and so it's like, okay, now we're reeling everybody back in. You don't have an edutainer that exists other than a guy named Saku Andrews, who uses his poetry. He does spoken word, and he does it for enterprise level clients, Barack Obama and BET, and all these people like that. You don't really have anybody that's doing both. You don't, and it was funny. The analogy I would give people when they would ask me, I would say, "Well, imagine if Tony Robbins and Michael Jackson had a baby. I'm the baby." And that was the analogy I would give people at the earlier, start of it. I don't say that as much now. I just say, like, I'm a hybrid life coach and musician. I'm an inspiration engineer. And they're like, oh, okay. And so anyway, as we get more content out, as we continue to get published in PR and credibility, as we continue to brand for SEO, gradually, this is a long game. It's not a short game. So as you continue doing this over years and years and years and years and years, then people start to get it, like, okay, got it. When I think inspiration engineer, I think Cauvee. I know what he is. And that's how you build a brand.
Do you have any advice for somebody who wants to get comfortable in who they are? How do you get comfortable in this whole process when you're experimenting a lot and you're trying things out and you're doing a lot of different things?
It's a great question. I think first off, you got to have awareness, right? You got to know what you're good at and what you're great at and what you suck at. Like, that's number one. The skills that you have or the things that you do need to be validated by the marketplace. So I don't say I have these skills just because Cauvee thinks he has them. He just says he has them. You need validation behind that. So there needs to be, number one, the awareness. Number two, the validation behind that awareness. Once you have those two things, I think that there's so many different, messages, coming at us from parents, coaches, friends, maybe if you have mentors, so on and so forth, that you're weeding through a lot of that. I think it depends on your age, where you're at in your life. I think it depends on what you've accomplished thus far, like where your status is. Like, I mean, there's a lot of variables as to your level of comfort, confidence, things of that nature, right? Are you a person that, for example, when you try to go out on a date and ask people out, did you get rejected a lot? Like, that's going to change, the dynamic of how you think. So there's rules there. If you're aware and you have the validation of the marketplace, then the third thing I would say is make sure you have mentors around you, right, that have done what you want to do. That was the biggest thing that I didn't have. You cannot go to someone who's overweight and say, hey, how do I get a 6-pack of abs? It teach you that, right? So you need to have people around you to support you, to help you in that validation process. And that could be friends and coaches and parents and mentors and things of that nature. In my experience, it was not. In my experience, the people that were closest to me were the most damaging and toxic people. So you want to be surrounded by a nurturing community that help you to mold and help you identify yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you remember when you started being conscious about your environment? Was it quite young, or where was it in the process?
You say conscious about my environment in what way?
Like you're just saying there, the importance of mentors, the importance of having like people around you who can help you to move forward in your life rather than keep you back or just you're stuck.
Well, there was a couple things. So when my dad gave me the gift of ferocity, that pissed me off, right? And like, when you tell me I can't do something, that's what I'm going to do. Like, that's just how I operate. Now, the second thing is that when I was talking about confidence, going back to that, I was a faithful So I've already experienced fame to some extent. I was locally famous in my hometown. So that fame gave me a big old confidence, right? To have 1,200 people chanting for you before you take the stage. Oh, that's a big confidence builder. It's also an ego builder, right? So I was already aware that I had a talent. I was aware that I'm somebody to be, feeling like I'm someone to go and get this dream, right? The awareness and consciousness around mentors. Well, that's an interesting question. I would have to think back, like, who was my very, very first mentor? I mean, my first mentor was books, like really good books. And then I would have to really sit here and think for a while, like, who was my first mentor and how did I come into awareness that I needed it? You know what I would say, what I would guesstimate? I was probably listening to like a Les Brown or a Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar or somebody like that, and they probably had mentioned like the importance of having mentors. And then I probably was like, oh, I need to go get a mentor. I do remember one of my first few mentors, it may not have been the first one, but one of them, in the United States, there's a nonprofit called score.org, which is a basically retired CEOs, CFOs, like all kinds of retired, executives, where in America you can go get free support and mentorship, by setting up on that site. So that would be my guesstimate, but that's a great question. I'm not sure how I fell into consciousness on that.
And the other thing I was kind of curious about is that how do you manage your ego when you've got any bit of fame? How do you manage to regulate that and not lose yourself in that?
I think that you want to have a state of humility. So I tell people about this all the time, like, I'm humble, meaning that I'm not afraid to be bold. A leader needs to know when to be a deer, and a leader needs to know when to there's a time for both, right? There's a time to be a Malcolm X and be aggressive. There's a time to be submissive. You got to know when and where and how to apply that. So with that, when people are giving you a lot of praise, it's cool to receive that. It's okay to say, thank you, receive that. But if you start letting that get to your head, like when I was young, I let a lot of that fame get to my head. And I think that you need to have, again, going back to that community and that nurture system, you need to have people that's going to hold you accountable and keep it real. And I tell a lot of my closest associates, like, hey, if you see me getting out of line or start being that guy, like, check me. Like I'm not too far above getting checked. Check me, like somebody hold me accountable. So I would say you would set certain boundaries or certain triggers, if you will, that if certain things are happening in your personality, that can kind of recalibrate you and bring you back to being grounded. And also, meditation and journaling and different practices like that can keep that ego in check.
Grounded, yeah.
Yeah.
You have one or two key skill sets that you build everything around in?
Music. I mean, music is my number one. And what's funny is, if music, somebody could say, well, Cauvee, if music's your number one, why don't you have a lot of music out right now? But music would be number one, just because that's where I started. Number two would be strategy. So I'm the guy, Dennis, if you tell me, where you're at today, then you tell me where you want to be. And then I ask you questions, I can reverse engineer that process as to where and what you need to do, right? We can set up a framework and an infrastructure on how to get there. Number three is being a creative. And when you say creative, like, that's very broad. But creativity has allowed me to do a lot of the things I do. So when you look at copywriting or poetry, design, see, that's all creative based. Anything that falls into that, in that funnel or in that umbrella, I've had a lot of success in that umbrella. So those would be my top three as of right now.
And do you see them help each other? Does the strategizing help you to become a better musician or creative, or do you see them overlap in any way?
Yeah, in the fact that I fall in alignment. It's funny, I didn't know what I was doing when I was doing it, but Tony Robbins talks all about modeling, right? And so when I was really early on, I didn't know who I sounded like. I didn't know what my sound was. So I was modeling the people I like, which was Nelly and Eminem and R. Kelly and, all these people that I would start, mimicking their sound until I found my sound. So in that way, strategically, yes. Strategy with, I didn't consciously strategize like humans. Like I know that I got into sales and I shared about my sales background, but I was never a salesman. I was always a person, like when I first shared the song and the music that I had in high school, I had no sales skills. Like I had not had a sales job yet. All I had was a lot of friends and a lot of connections and people. We had a great synergy and a great group. And for me, it was as simple as, I love this. I think it's cool. Let me share with you and see what you think. And when I did that, this is pre MySpace and all that. So we went viral, basically. I mean, without having the viral components of social media. And so, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, I think that would wrap that on as far as that question goes.
Okay. That's it. Have you always seen creation like that way, that you do something you love and you share it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, I was watching, and this was recent because this was with Bad Boys 3. So Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were doing their press tour, right? And Will was talking about, he now with his Instagram, it gives him the ability to create it like art. I mean, Will Smith has one of the best Instagrams out there. I mean, he puts a lot of money behind his Instagram, you can tell. And so what I see in that, or the alignment in that, to your question, is that is like living proof of someone else who is much farther along in their journey, or maybe much more successful, whatever you want to say, that sees creativity in that same lane. I think that we all humans, whether it's in business, whether it's your personal life, like we all have creative gifts, and those gifts were given to you to be shared, to serve other people with those gifts. And I definitely would say that it's a beauty to be able to do that. It's a abundant thing.
And the other thing, actually, with the modeling, did you become aware of that as a practice before you did it, or is it just something that you happened to do? Was it? And then as well, the other part of that is that, did you know you're going to get to a stage where you had to find your own voice and your own way of doing things?
Yes. So the second question, absolutely. I knew I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I figured it would at some point in time. And like I said, I just kept bringing a little bit of, and this is why I tell a lot of people when they ask me about finding purpose, because it's the same principle. Matter of fact, quick quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson that I love. It's my favorite quote. He says, "As to methods, there may be a million and something." He says, "The man," and I'm going to add, or woman, "that can successfully find the principle may successfully select his or her own methods." So I was always looking at the principle of things, not knowing what I was doing. The principle of how Eminem rapped, the principle of how R. Kelly would do a vibrato with his voice, like the principle of these things. So modeling, no, I didn't know early on that I was doing a Tony Robbins level training of modeling. I just was, sampling, trying different things, and sampling is big in the hip hop world. Gradually, when you start doing this, I brought up people that ask me about purpose. You don't know what you are good at or what you want to do in life until you start trying a lot of things. So by me trying a lot of things, I would be objective to my own voice and be like, okay, that sounds good. Oh, that stinks. I'm never going to do that again. Like I didn't like when I tried to do that character, that person. So in that same principle, you want to do this in business and in life, right? Go try a lot of skills, because that's going to tell you what sits and what doesn't, like what fits and what doesn't, what aligns and makes you feel good and what doesn't. So with that said, I wasn't consciously thinking I'm going to model people. I was just modeling, and then I come to find out later, like, oh, okay, that's what this coach over here says. So that's how that happened.
Yeah. Do you have any book you'd recommend? Game changer for you?
Oh yeah, Game Changer. E-Myth. E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber is a fantastic book. If you're validating, if you're in that validating process, then Pat Flynn's Will It Fly? That's a phenomenal book. And then just a book that I just love. It's not as heavy in the principles, but it's just a great book. Shoe Dog, which is by Phil Knight, which is the story of Nike. So make sure you guys definitely go get those. Those are great books.
Cool. You've one final message that you like to keep, or you'd like somebody to keep in mind for them following their own path and becoming their own little inspiration engineer?
Yeah, I want to repeat what I was saying before. I need you guys to understand that people don't know what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you, and you don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know that inspiration engineer was going to be the thing that I was going to evolve into. I had to go along the path. So what I want you guys to hear loud and clear is, you can't listen to other people to validate your dream. Now, I'm not talking about validating you as reviews. That's what I was talking about earlier. Testimonials, reviews, feedback. That's different. I'm talking about people that will tell you, parents, coaches, friends, family, whatever. people that will say like, that dream's not possible. That idea is not possible. Dennis, the reality is that dreams are dying. We have so many Steven Spielbergs that never became Steven Spielbergs because they heard somebody tell them that they couldn't do it, and then they believed it and they never went for it, right? I know a lady that was running, she left corporate America to go start a business, had a successful business, and all her friends was on her like, why would you go leave your benefits? Why would you go leave all these things? She left a successful business to go back to corporate America because of what her friends said. So you got to understand that you got to be firm in what you want to do and what you believe in, and that's what you got to go do. The calling on your heart was given to you. It wasn't given to them. So no matter what everybody else says, you've got to find your own why and go for what you want. And that's what would be my message to everybody today.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I like that. Nice passion behind that too.
Thank you.
Where would we find you online if you want to reach out to you?
So guys, I'm a very, I love people. I mean, I just do. Please reach out. Wherever you're at, I'm there. I'm not as active on TikTok. I'm not as active on Snapchat. I'm everywhere else. So CAUV, like victory, EE.com, CAUVEE.com. You can, I'll send you the link, Dennis, where you got show notes where we have Cauvee's World, which is a free community group. You guys can come and join the group and connect if you're on Facebook. But yeah, wherever you're at is where I'm at. So just feel free to reach out to me anywhere.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Cauvee. Thanks for sharing your story today and telling us some of your secrets as well to becoming an inspiration engineer today. Thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. You guys take care. Have a good one.
Cool. Until next time, have fun and enjoy the process.
Boost.